I have a deep, profound love for Mama Earth. The land has spoken to me everywhere I have gone in New Zealand since I first arrived 8 years ago. The Earth doesn't speak in words. She communicates with us through events and interactions with the natural world and with her creatures. A particular sort of vibrational intensity will alert me to the need to pay special attention to whatever is happening in that moment. Her messages arrive as a deep knowingness, sort of a holographic download of information that I receive in my heart when I stop and pay attention to whatever has shown up in my experience. This Earthshift series tells the story of what I've been learning from her while living in my van this past winter near a seaside community on the South Island of New Zealand, learning how to best thrive during long, long nights and freezing cold weather without electricity or a man-made source of heat. The beach here has provided many moments of insight and experiential wisdom. Some people begin their day by listening to the news on television or the radio. I'm often able to start mine by walking on the beach, discovering what's new since my last visit, looking and listening for whatever the earth has to share with me. I watch for the tracks of various shorebirds, and of seals and sea lions and penguins, and try to identify who's who by their prints. I'm learning to read the stories in the sand about what they've been up to. I've noticed how easily all the animal tracks are cleanly swept away, and have thought about the effects of the various kinds of tracks we humans make as we walk through life. Everything at the beach is constantly changing, not just daily, but moment by moment, and not just slight changes, but often huge ones can occur in a very short period of time. When you live in such an ever-changing, ever-shifting environment, it becomes obvious that in the natural world, life is nothing but movement and change. Life forms are always growing and adapting, or disintegrating and being transformed into something new. The tracks that earth elements themselves leave behind are fascinating. I love to discover how all sorts of new patterns and formations have been created each day as the wind and waves and sun and earth dance together in ever-changing combinations. One day a slow ooze of water unexpectedly dissolved the pattern of the sand right in front of me, holding the grains of sand in a state of temporary suspension before eventually setting them down into a new pattern. The experience quite wonderfully illustrated how during these times of rapid transformation, the old patterns of our lives are being dissolved so that new forms and structures that better suit our expanding selves can emerge. And sometimes life changes arrive quite suddenly and forcefully, and the world as we know it is turned upside down or destroyed in an instant. Just after sunrise one morning, the sun was particularly strong because of unusually clear skies, and I noticed my shadow because it was huge, stretched very tall and thin. I got to thinking about shadows, and I started looking for them. I saw how the angle of the sun greatly affected their size and shape. I could see that shadows became much more clearly defined as the amount of light increased. When clouds passed over, the shadow could gradually become invisible until it disappeared entirely. The light could also become so strong that it was difficult to see the actual object itself. I can understand why the new, intense, light-filled energies are causing us to see so much more of our shadow selves and behaviors. I've continued playing around with them, observing that a shadow is never an accurate representation of the original object. I have realized that in coping with the shadow stuff that's coming up in our lives, it's important not to get caught up fighting with the appearance and seeming reality of the shadows, but instead to simply use them as indicators that there is a need to look within for whatever is blocking the light and connection to source energy. One day as I was taking a photo of my shadow, I realized there was a beautiful reflection surrounding it. I began looking for all kinds of reflections, noticing that it's the smooth, calm surfaces that allow a reflection to appear. The larger the area of stillness, the more one is able to see reflected. The brighter the light and quieter the reflecting surface is, the more accurate, detailed, and beautiful the reflection becomes. A few weeks after the winter solstice, I was invited to move my van to a spot where I found myself nestled in between a huge, wonderful wisdom tree I've named Gem on one side, and a field of what I call Tangle Divine on the other. To open up a nearby walking trail, I had to clear some of the Tangle Divine, and felt inspired to disentangle it, and then rewind it into circles that could be used for Christmas wreaths. And then an intuitive, creative process took over, and I found myself creating what felt like an important symbol, and I knew I needed to hang it from one of Gem's branches near the entrance to the path into the garden. When I went online, I discovered that in Celtic symbolic language, the circle indicates wholeness of spirit, a soul that is intact. The equal-sided cross is a symbol for fir tree. The cross within the circle is a representation of integration and the process of purification. The larger outer circle symbolizes expanding into an even greater wholeness. During the current transformational times, we humans have a rare opportunity to evolve into our higher vibrational selves if we consciously choose to embody the earth as she herself shifts into higher vibrational frequencies. My experience with Gem and the Tangle Divine showed me how to do this. We must all now disentangle ourselves from any of the family, societal, or cultural beliefs and expectations that may be blocking the full expression of our true essence. Gem is a reflection of this expanded state, being both deeply rooted into the earth and fully open to source and multidimensional energies. Recently, I've been noticing places on the beach that include various combinations of tracks, patterns and formations, shadows and reflections, mirroring the very intense and complex situations that are coming up for all of us these days. I've been shown that as each situation in life arises, it can be viewed through shadow thinking, that is, seeing things simply in terms of black or white, good or bad, and judging everything from a single point of perspective. Or I can choose to view everything through the eyes of my heart, finding the still point within, and then looking at each situation from different angles of possibility, understanding that whatever I focus my time and attention upon in my outer world is simply a reflection of what's going on within me. One last story as an example. I've been pondering the question, what can I do to help lessen the fear and anxiety of those around me who aren't consciously aware of the huge transformational processes that are going on at very subtle levels within everyone's bodies, minds, and energy fields? Seagulls and oyster catchers were my teachers this time. A pair of oyster catchers have been very diligently guarding their nest this spring. Although I've tried again and again to communicate to them that I'm just walking by, doing my own thing, they have still used all of their many defensive behaviors to fend me off, unable to see that I am well-meaning and harmless, perfectly illustrating the power of fear and the distortion caused by shadow thinking. On another day, when a nesting pair of seagulls took turns flying straight at me in attack mode, I exuberantly yelled, "You are so beautiful! Do it again!" Instead of continuing the attack, they landed a short distance away and started to pose for my camera. It was a most incredible shift of energy, showing me the power of appreciation and of viewing life's challenges as a beautiful reflection. So, may this Earth Shift series touch your heart and encourage you to gift yourself by communing directly with Mama Earth. Namaste.